Welcome to another edition of Eye on the Issues. Joining me now is Mike Grabowski, known as the Blue Collar Boycott. Mike, let's back up for a second. Tell us who you are, where you are, and how we ended up here with you.
Well, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm in Virginia. I've grown up here most of my formative life. I'm in a small town called Winchester, which is not too far outside of Washington, D.C. I've actually spent a lot of my years working in and around D.C. and the Baltimore area. We're here because 70% of the people in this country think we're headed in the wrong direction. That's why we're here. That's to the blue collar boycott concept.
Gotcha. And so how did you, what is your background a little bit before you and you still probably are doing something else on the side, but clearly you're trying to embrace the core element of this country and you're reaching out. Blue collar, the blue collar workforce really is the backbone of this nation.
It is. The middle class, is the backbone of this nation, the broader middle class. So obviously I still have to work every day. I own my own construction business, which, it's taken me years to get off the ground. And at this point, Lord willing, I do have time to focus on a side project like this. But I have 3 children. What's most important to me is that, they're left with a country that's at least as good as the one I grew up in or better. And right now it looks like it's not heading in that direction.
So what got you interested in sharing your conservative viewpoints about the direction you want this country to go in?
Well, again, I'm a conservative, but when I started paying attention to some of the polling, especially over the last couple of years, when you see that 70% of the country thinks we're heading in the wrong direction, that's a big number, and we haven't hit that number in a very long time. So obviously that crosses party lines, right? So that is Democrats, Republicans, and everyone in between. And I don't know what the other 30% is doing. I would hope that most of those people are apolitical. But I think there is certainly a small element that's perfectly content for us to slide past the third base of socialism into the home plate of communism. And that's what concerns me here. And it seems like that fringe minority is the only voice that rises to the top in this country right now. And I think I have some ideas about why. So we seem vapor locked. The middle class knows that they are facing some external pressures. Maybe we're under attack, if you want to call it that. And they don't quite know what to do about it. And again, focusing on that 70%, that's across party lines. That's Democrats, people in the middle, and Republicans feel the pressure. They feel that something is going on and they don't know what to do about it. I had an idea, at least within my frame of reference, for what we might be able to do to address the root cause of the problem.
And as you have mentioned in one of your videos, organizing or this element of society, or they're not very good at organizing and getting things done. Right. The fringes are usually better at that. Well, what's going to change with what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're all busy. We've had our nose to the grindstone, right? And that's what we do here in the middle class. And so I feel like while we've been doing that for a very long time, we've had the better part of 535 people who haven't gotten enough attention from us. We haven't paid attention to what they're doing, and for that reason, I feel like they are now so entwined and entangled with multinational corporations and foreign interests that we're moving towards an oligarchy. And an oligarchy is basically just a rebrand of communism. It's communism 2.0. And this oligarchy that I see us moving towards, and evidently the majority of America sees us moving towards, seems to be in lockstep with the UN and their agendas and their baggage, right? The WEF, WHO, the IMF, and all the other things that go along with that. So a big part of their agendas, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, America 2050, seem to require a surveillance state. And that's just one area where I felt like the blue collar people could make the biggest impact. So if you look at like an economic boycott, a financial boycott, like is happening now with Bud Light or Jack Daniels or Hershey or any of them, right? That sort of happens organically. People are aware of that and they boycott on their own. People may not be aware of some of these agendas, these UN agendas, and what that really means in these 15-minute cities. And when we give them that element of control, what that could mean for the next generation may not mean it for us, but certainly the infrastructure is there. So what I want to do is build a platform so that a free share of information and track these types of projects so that people can be aware of what's going on and we can identify whether or not we want to lend our resources, our labor resources, to those types of projects. Because I think the chink in the armor right now, if we identify that, is that in America, labor resources are in short supply, in particular, skilled labor resources.
Right. And so you want to build these platforms and obviously tell us how you envision your reach as the blue collar boycott guy going out. I believe you said you're in the midst of building your website. You've got your TikTok platform. What other platforms are you out there on?
So we are going to be all across basically all platforms. So we have YouTube, we have Rumble, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have everything lined up. That's going to launch after the website goes. And as a contractor, believe me, I understand that things sometimes take longer than they should, right? So we were very close, I think, to launching the website. We've been tweaking it. It's going into beta, I think, next week. So what I'm doing and how I'm tracking this is I'm using widely available construction data, which I already use for my own business. It's nationwide, okay? I can tweak keywords and build my own algorithm. And in fact, I've already done it. I had some projects come in yesterday that look a little suspicious to me so that I can identify very quickly what projects I think might be associated with some type of nefarious thing, a 15-minute city deal, where whether it's I could use a keyword for license plate readers or facial recognition scanners or retinal scanners or anything that needs to be installed anywhere. I can literally tweak this keyword algorithm to identify those projects, and then I can post those, and we can have a further discussion about that. My sincere hope, since I live in Virginia, I can certainly track a project that's going on in Oklahoma or Wyoming, but I'm not boots on the ground there. So the hope is that I build an infrastructure to get some eyes on, to see what's actually happening and get some information and decide whether or not that's something that collectively as a group we need to participate in.
So if you had to pick one thing right now in this country, in respect to the direction we're heading, that you could change, what would it be?
Wow, that's a big question.
It is. Put you on the spot.
I said this to people before. There's like so much to be upset about on both sides of the aisle, right? People have their own opinions, and it seems like our focus is split. I think I'm most concerned about, as I said before, the fact that I feel like our politicians, 535 people, for the majority of them, are just compromised by multinational corporations and foreign interests, and globalism seems to be creeping its way into the United States. I mean, by and large, the people of the United States, whether left, the right, the middle, they've always been concerned about the same things, right? We're concerned about our kids, education, economic opportunities and prosperity, and a secure border, and a strong military, and the freedoms that are guaranteed to us under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's what, by and large, most Americans, that 70% is most concerned with. It doesn't seem like our government, it doesn't seem like that's their highest priority. And that is a problem.
Now let's talk about what you think, if you had to pick one thing, is going right in this country right now.
The awakening. The fact that 70% of the people think that we're going in the wrong direction. I mean, that tells me that a lot of people are paying, more people now, I think, are paying attention than ever before. And I don't know why that is. I don't know what the impetus was, but, in my research, that's a pretty historic number. And that tells me that people are paying attention. They're awake and aware, and they're paying attention to what's going on. And I think that's what's going in the right direction. The fact that more and more people are waking up to the fact that, hey, this whole left and right thing only really exists in the broader middle class. If you're below that and it's the poor, you're fighting for your survival. And if you're above that and outside of that, there is only one political party to you, and that's the party of power, money, and control. And I think more people are waking up to that.
So let's talk to the people of Wyoming right now. You're obviously in Virginia. In this day and age of, the latest, greatest technology out there, it doesn't matter where you are in this world, you can be influential. What if people are in Wyoming right now watching this and they want to get involved, they hear what you have to say, they like your ideas, like the concept, what can they do to get involved to help?
Well, I would say if you hear this message, the first thing, if you're a blue collar or a white collar, I would encourage you to study Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, America 2050. Those are UN agendas that date back to the early 1990s. Get familiar with those. The next thing you can do if you want to get involved is you can email us right now at bluecollarboycott@gmail.com. That'll go to my team. I do have a team that supports me, a bunch of great people that we've built just in the last month and a half since we started this. And that'll get right to the team, and they'll figure out how you can help and how to get you involved. And certainly once the website launches, we get legs under this thing and we onboard more members. I think we have around 40,000 now. just through TikTok. Once this thing gets legs under it, we will need more people, more brains in every state, more eyes and ears on the ground.
Let's talk for a second, if we can, about climate change and, for example, C40.org. What is that?
Yes. Well, C40.org, I don't think in and of itself, it's a group of people internationally who have representatives in every country, and they are interested in ushering in a number of green initiatives. All right. And the reason I talk about climate change so much is that climate change really, at this point, is all they have to push these agendas. All right. So they've created enough anxiety and fear around this concept of climate change that it is motivating people to sort of toe the line. It's a cattle prod, if you will, right? Just an analogy. So it's not that I believe that any of the people involved in that organization at a grassroots level have any nefarious intent. It's just that they've bought into the concept of climate change. My problem with climate change is, as it was with COVID, is we're only ever exposed to one side of the science. And when I follow that side of the science, it always leads to the money. The other side of the science, right? The contradicting side of the science that contradicts the narrative, you never get to hear about that unless you do a deep dive and really get into it and really research on your own. But it's out there and it's available. So climate change is really what they're using to push these agendas. And to me, there's something very wrong with that.
Let's think back for a second to, and this may be a little bit beyond your years there, but Y2K, okay? Everyone was worried about the computers.
50 years old, I remember well.
Okay, the computers obviously turning over to Y2K, all these systems going to shut down. Are they going to crash? Is what we're seeing right now with green energy, would you possibly compare it to that? Is it all a big bust?
Well, I don't think it's just me. And again, this may be above my pay grade to discuss, but I definitely remember Y2K. Again, that was, and I don't know what the end goal was there, but it definitely created a lot of fear and anxiety. COVID created fear and anxiety. Climate change is creating fear and anxiety. Is there a pattern here? I mean, ultimately, you have to say that, if people are so susceptible to this fear and anxiety, they can't really think for themselves and they can't make a clear decision and they just sort of toe the line. And that seems to be the methodology of the UN, which has now infiltrated our government and is trickling down through our government, through ESG and everything else. So yeah, I would equate climate change and COVID to Y2K at this point.
Okay. I appreciate your time, Mike. One last message you'd like to share with the people in Wyoming. You have an audience right now that I'm sure at some point is going to be thousands.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I've never been to Wyoming. I'm anxious to visit. I just stay strong, be open-minded, think for yourself, do your research, and try to escape the fear and anxiety. That's what we need right now.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.